right, everybody, brand new Cabral Concept. This is our Mindset and Motivation Monday show of the week. I want to go over a concept with you that may be brand new to you. If not, great. I want you to dive deeper into this topic. It is a concept from Zen Buddhism. It's something that I've tried to incorporate to a much larger degree into my life because every time I revisit this, it increases my level of happiness. But not only happiness, actual enthusiasm for life. I'm going to go through that with you here today because, a lot of times we do talk about goal setting, we talk about goal achieving, we talk about reaching our potential, we just talk about enjoying life, right? Like all the different things that go into growth and happiness and relationships and health. And so that's what I want to talk about, but I want to approach it from a different frame today. So sometimes what we need to do is explore more of these concepts and to begin to rewire our mind in a different way, because it's not always going after our goals full speed ahead. If there's a wall in our way, instead of not going around it or maybe over it or coming up with a better blueprint, but we try to run through it oftentimes. And when we do, it can lead to burnout. I'm not saying it won't be successful. And sometimes, honestly, it just needs to be stubborn persistence to get to your goal. That's true, but not all the time, not every time, and it will burn you out. So one thing that I've really been exploring, especially over the last couple of years, is this term called Shoshin. And Shoshin, again, it's a Buddhism-based term, Zen Buddhism term, and it literally stands for beginner's mind. So every time you hear Shoshin, I want you to think about beginner's mind, but not a beginner's mind necessarily from, oh, you've never done this before. You're completely new at it. Now, it could be that. But truthfully, when sometimes you look at a child or a new team member at work or whatever it is, sometimes when they come in as a beginner, they're not looking at it from a beginner's mindset. They already want to be the expert. That's the opposite of this Zen Buddhist term or concept. What I want you to think about are the aspects that make up this overall philosophy. And it is approaching any task or new goal, or maybe your life's work, with a level of openness. So it's embracing new ideas and new concepts and not actually feeling that you have all of the answers. So it's fascinating because if you're already an expert in a topic, you might always want to be able to give the answer you've always given. But instead of doing that, it's stepping back and saying, what might I not know? Or what angle am I not thinking about in this argument, debate, investment, whatever it may be, right? Depending on your career. And the other part I like about this is not just being open, but being eager to learn new things. So if you're going after a new goal, whatever it might be, again, a lot of our IHPs, it's starting a health coaching business. Great. So you know a lot about helping people to get well. No doubt about that. But you may not know, okay, well, how do I set up social media? How do I set up a website? How do I get my first client? How do I do all of those different things? And instead of being nervous about it, instead of being worried about it, look at it as saying to yourself, this is the only time I'm going to be a beginner at starting out as a health coach. That means, because you will look back on it with a sense of joy and pride of what you've accomplished, but you also can enjoy the startup process of getting from A to B and B to C, the beginning steps. The same goes for health. Everybody wants to get healthy overnight, right? Just like everybody wants to lose the weight overnight or gain the muscle overnight, but that's not always how it works. And the fascinating thing is that if we can explore day to day, not just the actions that we do, but explore how we're going to get there, it can increase our eagerness, which means when we wake up in the morning, we're excited to go after our goals. So one thing I just want to share with you is I just started, again, I don't have, I'm someone that doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of free time. But I've created my life to be that way. And some people don't like that, and I totally get it. I've scheduled my life in a way that I get to do all the things that I love to do, but my schedule's pretty full. But one of my daughters was looking to learn Spanish. And I said, great. We had a family friend come over, and they were actually learning Hungarian. So they were learning another language that is just totally foreign to them, literally, right? And they were learning it because that's what their spouse understands and same with the family, right? And so they were learning that, which for great reasons. Well, my daughter is going to be taking Spanish. She was taking French. And I said, you know what? I took 7 years of French. And although it was great, good to take French, I guess, right? I haven't used it. That's the truth. Like literally I've been to France once, used it very, very little. 7 years. I can still understand it to a degree. I can definitely read it, but I can't speak it because it just takes so much to get back into it. But I said to myself, I always wanted to learn Spanish. And I think it's more applicable for more of the places that I travel to, more of the people that I meet, and et cetera. But I said to myself, okay, I'll take it with you. And so we're learning it on the Duolingo app before she goes back to school, and then she's going to be taken during school. So I said, you know what? I'm going to dedicate 15 minutes a day. And so I do 15 minutes before the workday starts. That's basically just kind of how I set it up. And that 15 minutes, I go in not saying that I need to become an expert in speaking Spanish overnight. I can actually look at it as, since I don't need to accomplish it this week or even next month, and I look at this as, I could take this 15 minutes a day for the rest of my life. And I'm pretty sure at some point, right, as much as I might stumble over my words and all of that, at some point I'll become proficient. And it's a great way to look at this, is that if you don't get overwhelmed with moving into a process, it's like a previous podcast that I did, then success is inevitable, right? So if you've never created a health coaching business before, well, there are only so many ways to literally mess up, right? So like that's how I look at it as well. Eventually you're going to figure out all the right things to do. And especially if you have a coach or a mentor or a business plan or any of those things, the likelihood of success is even greater. But again, it's always 100%. Like your likelihood of success in life really is 100% if you're willing to stick with it. Now, if you set a goal of just saying like, oh, I want to win the lottery. Well, that's not necessarily within your control. I'm saying doing things within your control, you can definitely accomplish if you're willing just to simply put in the effort, put in the time, take the action. The overall concept of be, do, get, right? And we've talked about that. I can link these shows up if you're new to the Mindset and Motivation Mondays. So that's one thing that I've looked at. And I also, it builds some humility, meaning that I'm not great at learning this new language, not by a long shot. And so, my daughters are taking it. We're joking around, stumbling over words, trying to put sentences together, but it's fun coming at it from a beginner's mindset. And we can do that even with more serious topics. Now, again, I know how serious a topic health is. It's one of the reasons why I try to do this Monday show, is because as hard as it is, and the relapses and the stumbling and those types of things, it's important to lock in with that mindset. And it's something that I didn't have for those 10 years it took me to get well. I didn't get well overnight. And I certainly didn't have a positive mindset about it. I wish I did, right? And yes, you might say, well, it's easy to think that way in hindsight. True. But if you think that way earlier, you actually get healthier and well earlier. And the reason is that you drop all of the stress that comes along with having and needing to accomplish the goal. Remember what I've shared with you about the difference between the inevitability, the belief that it's already here, that it's simply a matter of time. It is yours. Versus, I don't know if it'll ever happen. I need this to happen. I want it to happen. All of those things push it further away. You're telling the world, you're telling the universe, you're telling yourself, you don't have it, right? And I know it's difficult because it's not there right now, but as I said before, success is inevitable. It really is. Let's just take an autoimmune issue. Okay, you have an autoimmune issue like Hashimoto's or rheumatoid arthritis. Well, for the most part, all of those things are very fixable. The only thing is it's just not going to happen in the next 4 weeks. You can start to feel better in the next 4 weeks, typically 3 to 6 months. Why? Because you need to rebalance your gut flora. You need to also reduce the SIBO, the candida overgrowth, parasites or H. pylori, seal the gut wall. You'll want to reduce heavy metals. You're going to work on the sympathetic nervous system dominance, the fight or flight, the stress. You'll look at any viral-based issues. So it's just things to work on. And your body's an organism. Think of it as like a plant. You have to tend to it. It needs sunlight and water and carbon dioxide and all the different things for that plant to grow. And your body needs some of those same things and a little bit others. But what it needs is good input. So improving those deficiencies and removing the toxicities. And in time, the cells turn over and they become healthier. All of this is just simply a microcosm for a greater macrocosm of your life. I want to share with you, though, a few other benefits of this beginner's mindset. Is that when you go into it with more of an open mind, more relaxed, you learn faster. Think about it. Again, I try to share this with my daughters. If you're stressed while trying to study or take a test, you're in more of the fight or flight. And the problem is you can't absorb as well, so you don't comprehend as well. You're not relaxed, so you're not open to different ways of doing things, different tips and tricks to solve these different puzzles and equations. And then you just, it's a vicious cycle because you get more stressed, right? So you see something, you're not accomplishing it right away, you get stressed, it becomes even more difficult, you become more stressed, and the cycle just repeats. So at some time, you just need to step out of that circle of displeasure and just say, there has to be another way. Let me get a little bit more creative. Let me play a little bit more with this. And when you do that, you also become more resilient because you simply say to yourself, I will figure this out. I haven't figured it out yet, but I will figure it out. There's only, as I said, so many different ways not to get it right. And the right coach, the right mentor, the right course, the right certification, the right blueprint, the right book, the right podcast, you're going to find that answer. So it's just putting in the reps over and over time. The other thing that I like is that if you can apply this to relationships, you can say, what am I doing well? What am I not doing well? Where could I improve? How could I improve? Why is this person, reacting in this way? What did I do improperly? Or why am I just seeing it maybe from a different perspective than they are? Just kind of go in with that open mind where it's just not you against them, right? You against the world. That it's, maybe we can multiply. Maybe it can be me plus you, right? Equals an exponential result, especially in work. If you look at it like you can do something on your own, but if you get together 2 or 3 strong people on a team, you can do the work with then far more than those 2 to 3, right? Because you just get multiplied efforts, especially from the input of all the creativity, all the new thoughts that you would never have just on your own. So what I want to share with you is this. By exploring this Shoshin concept, I believe that you're going to have more curiosity for life. I think it's going to increase your eagerness, which always up levels your energy, gets you more excited to start the day. And truthfully, your confidence will build because you're going to be able to get after and accomplish your goals that much faster. So as I've said before, it's not necessarily the accomplishing of goals that I think truly brings you happiness. I believe it's the process of growth along the way where you see yourself become literally a different person that ultimately leads to the enjoyment we get out of life. So hopefully this was helpful. Thank you so much for your support of the Cabral Concept. I appreciate you. I thank you. And of course, if the show is helpful, do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it will serve. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show. Before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I want to make sure that you're getting our daily content, not missing out on anything functional medicine, wellness, weight gain, weight loss, anti-aging, living longer, stronger, and all of the most cutting-edge research. And if there's any topics you want to hear, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Take care.